So it's about the relationship between like novels or stories and real life. Um, and I think fiction, when used in this sense, doesn't just mean things that are untrue. It means a specific kind of writing, usually imaginative or creative writing. So verisimilitude is the feeling of truthfulness. Um, so if a piece of writing has verisimilitude, it means that it feels true. It doesn't mean that it is true, which would be strange if you were assessing fiction on its truthfulness. You wouldn't say this fiction is accurate or correct, but you could say that it has verisimilitude. That is, it has a strong reality effect. It feels real. It feels true. Obviously, this is not something that can be achieved in all respects, but you might talk about psychological verisimilitude. That is, I read this story, and the way that people behave in the story, the characters, is very similar to how people behave in real life. It felt true. So that's what that word verisimilitude means. Um,
And
so they're saying structured imitation, not transcription. So that's the distinction here. So that that when people make stories, they're drawing on in a deliberate, structured way things that happen in the world and in real life. They're making choices on how to arrange those, um, not writing it down literally as it happens. Um, so this is a kind of classic accusation that's made. Um, some writers are told that their writing isn't very good because it's come from their diary, or they've just written a journal of everyday life and then tried to turn it into a novel. Um, so and there's a whole debate about this actually, because there's a current genre which is called autofiction, which is very much about fiction that seems close to and is drawing on autobiography, that is writing truthfully about the self.
Adam, when you said that literal transcription of life, is it what you said about daily diaries or whatever? What is the real
Yeah.
transcription of life?
So to
Literal.
transcribe something is to imply that you transfer it from one medium to another, but you don't actually change it at a fundamental level. So if I transcribe a recording, what I'm doing is someone's spoken and I've recorded them speaking. I go and I write that down, what they've said, but a literal transcription would be to write exactly what they've said. So to imagine that fiction is a literal transcription of life, it would just be someone writing down, this is what happened today during my life,
Mm.
which is more like a diary or a journal. It means without any of the metaphorical or figurative
Mm.
features of language. Um, so if I'm writing down what happens in my life every day, I'm probably not choosing someone as an antagonist or a villain in the story. I might feel that way sometimes, but if I then turn that into fiction, I might make myself into a hero or an anti-hero, and I might make other people into villains or protagonists or antagonists, um, so that they take on a role in a type of story. Whereas everyday life is much more complex than that and sometimes much more boring.
Mm. Yeah. So, and it
Yeah,
comes from which word you said? It comes from which verb?
to transcribe,
Transcribe.
transcribe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
which just
Transcribe.
means to write down, to take something from one medium and to write it down
Mm.
in another, to write it.
So here,
They're talking about fiction is different to doing that. So, whereas if you were transcribing, you just write down this person said this, then this person said this, then I did this, then I did this. Whereas if you're writing fiction, you're making decisions like, I'm not going to write about this. I'm going to choose to focus on this thing that happened, and I'm going to change the characters. Maybe there were 3 people there, but I'm going to make it so there was just 2. So fiction is a very deliberate process of transformation rather than transcription.
exactly, I
It's
get it.
changing the form as well as the medium.
Great.
You can't really say to arrange a purpose. So to arrange is to put things in a particular order. You could arrange for a purpose.
Arrange for a purpose, yeah.
Yeah, so if you've got a purpose in mind, then you might arrange things so that that purpose is met or that that purpose is achieved. Yeah, and you can't really complete fictional elements either. Fictional elements are the parts of the piece of writing that are invented. So you can complete a fiction, that is by completing the writing process and the editing process, but the elements in that fiction, you're deciding where they go. You're arranging them. I'm going to include this conversation in this scene. I'm going to include this description at the end. That's a process of arrangement.
Yeah, amazing. I got